So I'm dealing with this talk by Kip Throne, and I think he's talking nonsense about relativity, so I'll get onto that place. Here we go.
I always like to begin a lecture with a quotation from my close friend Stephen Hawking. Can you hear me? Good. There were two scientists, physical scientists, in the history of humankind who are the greatest intellects that we have seen in the physical sciences. Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein, and they tower over all of the rest of us, even Stephen Hawking, and far, far over me. Newton lived 1643 to 1727, and he gave us a framework for the laws of nature that lasted for 200 years. A framework based on absolute space, absolute time, forces, accelerations, the things of everyday experience. Einstein lived from 1876 to 1955. He gave us a new framework that supplanted Isaac Newton's framework. It has now been in place for 100 years, and the fundamental foundation for that is what Einstein called the principle of relativity. The principle of relativity is an audacious thing. It is a law that governs the laws of physics. If you can just imagine that, somebody conceiving of a law that governs the laws of physics. What it says is that each law of nature must be the same in every reference frame. And he laid this down in his classic paper on the electrodynamics of moving bodies in June 1905. So here you are running down Colorado Boulevard in your high-speed sports car, and you have a reference frame inside there, and inside this car you do an experiment to study the laws of nature. For example, you study the Lorentz force law, the force that acts on a charged particle when it's moving in an electric and magnetic field. I sit outside there, and I do out on the street on Colorado Boulevard, I do the same experiment. And we have to get identically the same answers. We have to see that these force laws for electromagnetism must be identically the same for you at high speed in your car and for me out on the street. Well, that's not quite right, because in 1905, Einstein did not yet know how to deal with gravity, and yet we have gravity on Colorado Boulevard and in your car. And so we've got to do what a physicist often does. We do thought experiments where we very easily put you, the car, and me out in interstellar space, and now we redo the experiment. And so you think about that as a thought experiment, and that's the way it really goes. There were some really remarkable consequences in 1905 that Einstein deduced from this fundamental principle. Quite surprising, but they were forced on him just by laying down that principle that the laws of physics are the same in every reference frame. First of all, in your frame, your car looks like that, but when I measure your car in my reference frame on Colorado Boulevard, as the car goes whizzing by, it appears to be contracted in length. Looking at myself in a mirror, I look perfectly normal, but you look at me as you go flying by, and I appear to be contracted in width. In addition, as I look at your clocks ticking away, an ideal clock, the best atomic clock that the world's best clockmaker can make, I see your clocks running slow, but you see my clocks running slow. How is this possible? Well, it has to do with the fact that simultaneity is different for you and for me. So if you put a bunch of firecrackers...
Okay, so he just talked a load of nonsense. He's trying to explain it by simultaneity, and it doesn't do anything. Just get back to it.
I look perfectly normal, but you look at me as you go flying by, and I appear to be contracted in width. In addition, as I look at your clocks ticking away, an ideal clock, the best atomic clock that the world's best clockmaker can make, I see your clocks running slow, but you see my clocks running slow.
Okay, so he's claiming, I see your clock's running slow and you see my clock's running slow. So this person looking at that clock says that clock is running slow, and this person in here looks at that clock and says that clock is running slow. And that is nonsense. In this sort of setup, the people who believe in Einstein's relativity don't all necessarily say that. They don't all necessarily say, I see your clock running slow and you see my clock running slow. Some of them will say, I see your clock running slow, but you will see my clock running fast. So you got these people saying different things. So if we go, however, what he's saying, I see your clock's running slow and you see my clock's running slow, right. Consider the situation. This person looks at that clock and says that's running slow. So he then tells that person to make his clock go faster. And so he can adjust that clock, and eventually that person will say, yep, you now got your clock going at the same rate as my clock. Or alternatively, this person can look at this clock and say that's running slow, and tell this person then tells this person, make your clock go faster. So this person can adjust his clock to make it go faster, and this person eventually say, yep, that's the same time as my clock. How is that possible? That is nonsense. This person making his clock go faster and this person making his clock faster are supposed to somehow make the clocks all go at the same rate. That is absolute nonsense. How is that possible? That is nonsense. Just talking absolute nonsense. If this, for instance, if this person says, right, make your clock go faster to this person adjusts his clock, yeah, it's faster. This person say, right, after time, yeah, you got it to go at the same rate as my clock. And this person should then say, right, both clocks are at the same rate. Which is nonsense. If that person can make his clock go faster, and that then makes both clocks go at the same rate. This is just absolute nonsense. Saying I see your clocks running slow and you see my clocks running slow, that is absolute nonsense. And as I say, some people do not say that. Some people believe in relativity do not say that, but Kip Throne is saying it, and he believes in relativity. And this is the type of contradictions you get with people who believe in relativity. They will say different things, and sometimes you get somebody who says something and it's complete and utter nonsense. So that's the sample of this one. Thank you.